Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Amsterdam Talk Season 4, Episode 25. I'm your host, Rod, and I'm here today with Becca. How you doing, Becca?
I'm amazing. Really happy to be here.
Thank you for coming, but before we get started, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am Becca, and I'm a recently retired college professor who gave up my career to go full time podcasting and coaching and writing and just into the world of working with others, helping others who struggle because of my own struggles in the past. So, yeah, that's in a nutshell me.
Well, since you bring up, your struggles of your past, so we see this like we named this a growth in mindset because you said
Yeah,
you have a book, prostitution to profession. Tell me to professor. I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah.
Prostitute professor. When did you start? I guess we could say, when did you start becoming a working girl? When did that start?
That was right out of high school.
And
So a
was there
long
any
time ago.
specific reasons why it was just like, hey,
Yeah, well, I mean, my mom was had an escort service, and
oh,
so
okay,
I started work. I left home and I went and I was working in the city, and
New York?
then I went back. Yeah, on the streets actually, and then she was at home with her escort service saying, "You should just safer. You should just come work for me." And so I did end up going to work for her. So we worked together, and my stepdad drove us around and kept us safe. And then I started stripping, so I was in that world. So I started when I was 18, and I finished when I was 31. So
Okay.
it was a long haul. And
So
then,
I'm listening. I ain't gonna cut you off. I'm
well, I
listening.
don't know. Just I think I answered that question, but yeah,
No, I was gonna say, being as though this was in the past, and New York wasn't New York what it was, so this was the time when I guess when Times Square was really the place. The Times Square, what it is now, was not Times Square then, and this is where
yeah,
a lot of this activity was going before Giuliani cleaned it up.
yeah, yeah. I wasn't in New York, but yeah, this was the mid '80s.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
so you did it for 13 years.
13 years, yeah, 13 years. So, a lot of it was I worked on and off for my mom, on and off on the street, and then, I'd get a home, or I traveled around a lot, dancing in clubs, and just basically, I just partied for 13 years.
Okay,
It
so
was like, and yeah, I don't know, and I had massive addiction issues, so it was just, I didn't get anywhere. I didn't, some of the women I worked with. They were raising kids and had buying homes, and like I met some really amazing women that were using that world to actually create a life, but I was just an addict.
okay.
Just an addict. But I was just living, just I don't know, we called it partying. It wasn't partying, but yeah. It was hard.
So you were saying you was living as an addict, so you was using that to buy substances, I should say.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So it is true that people do use that world to actually prosper themselves. You just said women will buy houses and things of that nature.
Yeah. I met some amazing women, real business women who were just dead serious and clean and sober and just building a life. Uh using just, but for me it wasn't like that.
Okay, so you spent 13 years just partying, and you said you was traveling. Well, like, where did you go? Like what cities and things did you go
I'm
through?
in Western Canada, so I did the western part of Canada, so mostly British Columbia, Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, and then some of the smaller towns in between. Just doing the circuit round and around.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
and
that's
then
circuit.
yeah, and you travel Sundays, so you work at each club for a week
Mhm.
and travel on Sundays to the next club and the next club, and it was a crazy life, right? Spent a lot of time in, I mean, the Hell's Angels clubhouses and places like that,
Right.
doing the crazy stuff. But the whole time I was doing that though, I sorry, I keep hitting my mic.
No,
I
you're fine.
wanted I knew I wanted a different life, but I just had no idea how to do it. And it wasn't that I just wanted to be clean and sober. I wanted to do something with my life. And there
Okay.
was like nobody. Sometimes I'd get really loaded and say, "Oh, I should go to college." And everybody would laugh. That's hilarious.
Mm,
Hilarious. You want to go to, right? We just thought it was hilarious. So it was really hard to, and so mostly just kept those dreams to myself. And I ended up in the hospital and psych wards and detox centers. And, yeah. And then, yeah, but just at the end, after, it's slowly, by the time I was 31, I was having a hard time getting work. There's 18-year-olds. They're like, "We don't want you. You're too old," right?
sure.
So, yeah, I was my 11th trip to the detox center where they were like, I was going like every year, about every once a year I'd end up there. And
Mm,
something snapped there. I just knew I had to do something different. And I went to college and ended up getting, my bachelor's degree. And then I went to grad school and I met new people, learned it was just all really hard, but by using student loans and just sticking with it, because I didn't get clean, I just
right.
went to college.
Right.
So
So no, go ahead.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No,
I
you
was
go
just
ahead.
going to
You
say,
go
I
ahead.
jokingly say I learned how to binge drink. So I gave up. Right, I learned because I thought, well, I gotta figure out how to do these assignments.
Right.
So I better right. So I went from drinking and using all the time. I gave up drugs and just started binge drinking. So every
Mm,
free moment I had, right, which made it so difficult.
right. So
You know,
being that you said you were in Western Canada, and there's a
yeah,
real popular city that a lot of people don't know that's right there in the United States of America that has built the foundation on prostitution of Seattle.
yeah, Seattle, yeah.
So have you ever, you and your girlfriends or whoever, mom ever escorted down to Seattle?
No, we never did go across the line. No.
Okay. Well, for those who don't know, I took a trip up Seattle probably about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and we did a tour and they talked about how Seattle was actually built on a lot of prostitution, a lot of sex, a lot of craziness over there. So and so that's just my personal journey. But you said after 13 years you went to college, and you said you're too old. They started the game, I guess, faded away because you became older.
Yeah.
So you went to
Yeah, and
college.
I wanted it out really bad. I mean, it was so depressing in the last 4 years or so.
Hmm.
I just didn't know what to do.
Why would you say it's
And
so depressing in the last 4 years?
oh, because I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be doing it. I was tired. I was trying to get clean. I kept going to the hospital. I kept going to detox. I kept reaching out for help and I just couldn't get sober. I didn't know how. I just couldn't get it to stick.
Hmm.
Um yeah, like addiction was just had me so bad. So I don't know how, yeah, but then I managed to just screw it, and I just enrolled in college and got a student loan and thought, well, I'll just start and see what happens. And what happened was that's what happened was I learned how to binge drink. So,
Right.
well, how am I going to do this, right? Because I couldn't quit. It's amazing to me now, like why couldn't I just quit? I couldn't figure out how to do it. I didn't know how to live without substances.
Hmm. So you went to college. So you learned how to binge drink. So did you like stay on campus, or you was just going back and forth to work?
Yeah, I did. I did actually. I stayed in student housing.
So you were
Got my
31,
yeah.
student in student housing.
Yeah, 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 and I finished when I was 38. Yeah,
So this is when you finished your bachelor's or your master's too.
my master's, yeah.
Okay. So what was that like being 31, living in student housing and having a bunch of 17 and 18-year-olds around?
It was their grandma, I guess, I don't know. It was fine, I mean, whatever, I didn't care. By then, yeah, at that point, I really didn't care what people thought. I'd been to places they didn't know who I was or where I came from or what my life had been like, and they're just these young college students, right? So I didn't make any friends. That's not why I was there.
Right.
So I was just really serious about my studies and being able to binge drink. I mean, literally, it was like a science for me. Okay, focus. I was getting straight A's, and then okay, now you can start drinking, and you got to get sober by Tuesday at 4 because you got this thing, right? It was just
Right.
becoming ridiculous. But that's what I did, and the sad part is I kept doing that. Right out of grad school, I got hired at a college, a rural college, to teach English,
Mm,
and I was there for 20 years. I just retired this year, and for the first 15, I was still binge drinking
mm. We got a
right through my
question.
career.
Someone said, "How long have you been clean?"
Since 2019. So what is that? 5 years?
So you
No,
don't.
218.
So
18.
you,
Yeah.
so you don't do anything anymore.
No, I don't even smoke cigarettes anymore, which
Mm.
I even gave up cigarettes.
Oh wow. So
Yeah,
for the
in
question,
2018, I fell into an 8-day blackout.
wow.
I didn't even know that was possible. I was a blackout drinker for years, and it was Thanksgiving weekend. I'm teaching at the college, and I'm 52 years old, and I brought home a bottle on the Thursday because Friday it was a long weekend, and I started drinking. I blacked out, and I didn't come out of the blackout for 8 days. When I came out of the blackout, 8 days were gone, and I didn't remember any of it, and I'd just been sitting there for over a week drinking, according
Wow.
to my husband. My husband, yeah. And I had missed a week of work, and I wasn't in class. I was supposed to be teaching. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. I thought, okay, I've destroyed my career now.
Well, that was
Like
my question to ask. If you're doing this binge and blacking out, how were you able to teach these students?
the same way I got my degrees and straight A's. It was a science. It's like you don't drink, and then it fell apart. In 2018, it fell apart because I got into a blackout and didn't come out of it in time to get to work. It was insane life.
Mm,
And so that morning, oh my God, I was so sick. I hadn't eaten anything. I was just like on the verge of seizure, and I didn't know what to do. I was just like, oh my God, I missed the whole week of work because it was like 3-day weekend and the whole week and then the end of the next weekend. I'd
right.
been in blackout. And anyway, I called in, long story short. I just thought, well, I've destroyed my career now, but I better call them. I could see they'd been calling, texting, emailing. I was just gone. And I got a hold of, I guess I was smart enough to do this. I got a hold of a union rep
Right.
and told them what happened. And they said, sick leave now.
Mm,
And I said, well, what about and they just said, they can't even ask why, you're just on sick leave. I said, but, and they helped me through the process, I guess. And I did. I went immediately to hospital. And from there, I went to a 8-week in residential treatment center and 4 months short-term sick leave or whatever you call it. And then went back, and I've been
mm.
clean ever since.
So
So,
what
I
was
mean, that 8-day blackout was what got me. That was it.
so the 8 day blackout? That was the breaking point.
It was. I thought it was the worst thing that ever happened to me, and it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me.
So out of all this, what did your husband say?
I don't know how yeah. He was just heartbroken. He's a very he just loves me, and he's not an angry person. He never. I mean, my first husband would have been very different, but he was just worried and
Mm,
trying to help me and couldn't. It's like, because you can't stop when someone's determined to drink, you can't stop them.
right.
So he just tried to keep me safe and from not falling and hurting myself and waiting, just loving me and hoping and waiting that I would somehow not die. And yeah, it was hard on him.
Is he
I talk
still
about,
with you today?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
We just had our 19th wedding anniversary.
Oh, we got another question. Do you have any medical issues from the drinking?
Not anymore. So when I went into the hospital, my liver was in pretty bad shape, but we have amazing recuperative livers. I
Right.
had an ulcer at the time. I also had an ulcer, but everything, yeah, not anymore. And I actually feel better today than I did when I was 30. I
Right.
was like, you know, than I've ever felt because I've never been this healthy. I exercise, I eat right, I feel great. So, and yeah, it's miraculous. But that's the thing, right? I don't know why we have to hit a hard, painful, agonizing bottom, but I remember that day thinking I've ruined my life, and now I can say it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I would have just kept going with the binging,
Correct. Could have.
right? Hold it together, and so sick and so like it's not living. It's barely existing, right? And
Right.
so
So
it
this was an
was
everyday thing.
well, no, because I knew if I started drinking after work on a Wednesday or something, yeah, I'd be messed up. So it was binge drinking. So weekends, long weekends, holidays. Don't forget that when we teach at a college, we teach for 10 months,
Right.
right? So there's 2 months for drinking, right?
So that was so that was your summer.
Yeah, it was my whole summer. I'd have to sober up. Okay, got to get sober by Labor Day. It was
Mm.
crazy.
Wow.
I'm being a bit facetious. That's not how I thought about it. It was so depressing. I wanted to quit so bad, and I tried and tried and tried and tried and tried, and nothing worked.
So the blackout happened, and was it like a treatment after you got out of the hospital? Was they send you like to a treatment center or anything like that?
Yeah, yeah. I went after I was in the hospital 7 days. They just fed me and got me off detoxed, and then I went to a treatment center for 8 weeks, and did what they do there, which is group stuff and
Right.
counseling and I guess I have to be honest. And then I got out of after 8 weeks, they let me out, and I had my car there, and I got in my car on the day I got out on December 26th,
Mm.
and it was 7 a.m. I tell this story in my book, so all of this is in my book, and they let me out at 7 a.m. and it's December. It's still dark out because this is Canada,
Hmm.
and it was snowing like crazy. And I got in my car, and it's a 5-hour drive home here to
Mm.
where we live. And so I started driving, and I knew that by 9 a.m., when the liquor store opens, I knew which
Mm.
town I would be in. And so I drove till 9 a.m. and made sure I was in the next town by 9 a.m. and bought a bottle. And I drank it driving all the way home after 8 weeks in the treatment center. So I arrived home after 8 weeks in the treatment center and an 8-day blackout, drunk.
Mm. And how did that go when you entered the door with your husband?
I know, right? Exactly. He was just, he didn't say anything. He just walked away. The next day, I sobered up. That was my last drink. It was like I
All right.
had to, it was like I don't know why I had to do it. One more, I don't know why, but that was it.
All right. Well, so you went through all that, and you have this book, Prostitute for Professor, where you illustrate the transformation. It's not a straightforward path. It's messy. You use your own tumultuous journey as a powerful example. So, what decided to make you write that book to share your experience with others? What decided to make you do that?
Because I spent 20 years at a small college in rural Canada. Like we moved away from Vancouver and I'm not in the city. As you can see, this is my backyard. And I hid, like I just hid. No one knew anything about me. And it's not that we have to tell all our secrets to everybody, but I hid in shame.
Right.
And I just got sick of it. And as a matter of fact, I wrote the book. I wasn't writing a book. I just decided I wanted to record my experiences, and for therapeutic reasons. And it turned out to be incredibly therapeutic because I was just overwhelmed with shame all the time of the things that I had done in those 13 years, and the things I had let been done to me, like just awful things that I was so ashamed of that I decided I couldn't talk even with counselor about it because it was just like, what's the point? I just get irritated. And I was like, I don't want to talk about it. So I wrote it. And then I kept writing and I wrote just some of the bigger memories. Like it's not a full autobiography or anything. It's just 13 stories, 13 stories from my life. And at the end of it, I realized, first of all, that felt amazing. I
Right.
felt different about myself. I felt different about my mother. I felt different about my past by writing it. I was able to reframe my past as I wrote it.
Right.
And I forgave her during that. I forgave my father. I forgave myself, and during the writing of that, because it all became so clear to me. I'm just like, because I even put a bit of her story in there. You know, she was raised in an orphanage and she had her own shit, right? So, and at the end of writing all that, I recommend it to anybody. I'm not saying you have to publish your life, but I recommend writing your stuff down if it's nagging and haunting you. And then the publishing came afterwards, and started talking to people, and a couple of people read it and decided to self-publish, and did really well on Amazon. And so, but it was the writing is the key.
Right. Well, I actually have it up right here on the other screen. If you see, I keep looking that way. So it's on Kindle for $8.99. Hardcover's $24 and $14.99 for the paperback. So you say 13 stories, and I don't want you to tell us the whole book, but for the viewers out here, like just give us one story in this book. Just sum it up really quick if you can.
Okay, I was scheduled to work a week in Calgary. In 1989, I think it was, and arrived on the Sunday as usual. They gave me a room on the 8th floor, and the Monday I would start dancing for the week. And this guy I had been hanging out with showed up from a nearby town 2 hours away at my hotel room door.
Hmm.
Long story short, he wanted a relationship. He wanted me to quit dancing and be his girl and get married and move away and start and be, and I just like, no, 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 no. And he jumped out my window and killed himself.
Holy
And
shit. Hold on,
yeah,
hold
and
on.
yeah. I know.
See,
I tell the story better in the book.
no, I'm
It's
no, because I'm trying to process this because he asked for okay, so he knew what you were doing.
Yeah, he was a DJ in one of the clubs.
He was a DJ, so he knew he okay,
Yeah,
so
he
this is
met.
where I got questions
Yeah.
at. So he knew what you was doing. Was he ever one of your customers before?
No, we had been hanging out together.
Hanging, or just hanging?
Partying together.
Okay, but
Hanging. Friends with benefits, I guess you call
okay,
it
so y'all were
nowadays.
friends with benefits. Y'all
Yeah.
was FWBs. So he came and told you he wanted you to stop the beer relationship.
Yeah, he wanted to get out of the bar. He wanted me to get out of the bar. Let's get out of this life. Let's do something. Let's do something. Let's make a life together. And I didn't want to do it. Not with him.
Oh
And
man.
for about 20 minutes, he sat on my bed and he was crying. He's like, I can't do this anymore. I'm depressed. And I just cold hearted. I just went, I don't want to. No. And I was trying to get him to leave. And instead he bolted across the room and dove through the window with the window was closed, broke the glass and dove out the window and landed 8 stories down on the downtown Calgary on the street.
So he Superman dove through a closed window.
He was 22.
22 years old.
Yeah.
And you were what, 21, 22, 3?
Yeah, around there. No, I was probably 20, 21. He was a little bit older than me. It was awful. I was
You
just going to
must have
say they
did
shipped his
something
body
that
home. His parents, they shipped his body home to his parents. I don't know what they knew about his life, but anyway, it was awful.
yeah, that is awful, but what did you do to that man to make him decide to do that?
What can I say? You never forget Becca.
Oh, holy shit. Well, hey, what I've heard of people say you have stuff to die for. He really did it. That is fucking insane.
That's me.
Hey, that is fucking insane right there.
I
But
know. It's not funny. We're
I
not
know
supposed
it's
to be
not.
laughing.
It's not funny, but you hear people say that cliche, like, man, that shit is worth dying. You hear people say, man, I die over that. But wow, holy shit, he really died. Jumped out 8 windows. I mean, 8 floors.
Okay, you want to hear? Okay, there's a little bit more to the story. The next week, I went back to the club that he worked in, and everybody there, of course, knew that he had died, and that I knew the story, like the regulars in the bar and the other DJ and the bartender, and everybody knew. And I went back there, and the other DJ, I was talking to him, and he's like, "Oh wow, that's really hardcore. What happened to Marcus?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was hardcore." And between dancers, he gets on the mic and he says, "Okay, everybody, this one's going out in honor of Marcus," and he plays Van Halen's song "Jump." Do you remember that song?
I know what you're talking about. That's petty. That is, so Marcus committed suicide, jumped out a window. He plays Van Halen jump.
Yeah. Go ahead and jump. You might as well jump. It's like, and everybody in the bar is like partying to it and laughing. I'm like, this is insane.
Yeah, that is insane. Oh man,
Yeah.
I'm coming. I see it. Okay, so somebody said a question. What are you doing today to continue to stay clean?
That's a great question. That's a great question. Lots. I have a meditation practice, prayer and meditation practice, journaling, but mostly it's helping others, staying serviceful and helpful to other people. The thing about it is today I don't have to really try to stay clean. It took the first year of my sobriety journey was really hard, and it was a
Right.
struggle every single day. Oh my God, how am I going to get from here to bedtime without a drink, without using something? And then something clicked, something changed, the last four years or so, I don't even think about it. I don't want it. I don't I don't have to resist it. I don't have it's just gone, magically gone. And some people say it's grace of God. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's the grace of God that you were able to stay on this path that you in, but you've been through so much. So I guess sometimes people say, like, my elders, my grandparents always tell me, sometimes when you party so much in your younger day, when you get older, it doesn't owe you anything. You don't want to do it anymore. It just becomes
Yeah.
tiring.
Yeah. Oh, it got boring a long time ago. I'll tell you that.
Oh man.
It's like, yeah, I got really sick of it a long time ago. But
Oh, well. No, no, go ahead, Deb.
I was just gonna say, but addiction. That's what addiction is. It's very boring. I work with people who can't stop. It's boring. You're like, do I have to keep doing this? Yeah, I do. Because you don't know how to not do it. It's horrible.
And that's the thing, when you're so used to doing something and your body starts to have to transform without weaning on that. That's why we have people that are functioning drug addict, functioning alcoholics, and when they need it to function, but when you
Yeah.
come off of it, you get sick.
Yeah.
People get sick. So that, and I know, you being inside of detox places in those first couple of days of you just being sick, that alcohol or whatever you were doing just couldn't hit that body, so your body's just going through something else, withdrawal. I think she froze. But that, I'm just gonna keep the story going while she's gone. But that is something fucking crazy that the man just killed himself, over
Yeah.
some
I'm
crazy.
sorry. I'm just moving closer to the house because you just froze for a second.
Oh, well, since you listen to the show, so you already know we've reached the segment to the point of the show, which is called "I Be Damned." You
Oh,
listen to the
yeah.
show, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's that time of the month, time of the day for the show. Where's that? So here we go. Patrice and I had a good 3 months together until she dumped me with a text. I refused to go out like that, so I went to her house and texted her back. Hold on, where come I text her back demanding that she come outside and break up with me face to face. She texted me to leave before her man came home. I refused. She threatened to call the police. I reminded her that I was in the car. on a public street, and she couldn't force me to move. Her son walked by and threw a drink in my open window. I let it slide. Some kid on a bike threw a rock at my back window. I jumped out because this is my wife's car, and I'll fight a kid if he busts the window. I suspected her whole family lives in a 1 mile radius of our house, but I stayed in my car demanding that she comes outside. Finally, Patrice comes outside to record our situation. I keep telling this married man to stop stalking me in his wife's pink Mary Kay Cadillac, but he wouldn't leave me alone. Do y'all know this married man? Can you contact his wife for me? I left. I don't know where Patrice posted that video, but it's only a matter of time before the incident gets back to my wife. Those Mary Kay women are tight and they will expose me. What to do? Financially speaking, divorce is not an option. Yeah. So you stalking somebody in a pink car. And that is hilarious.
Is that real?
Hey, listen, we just get the stories if they real or they
Okay.
not, but they are what they
Okay.
are.
Okay. Well, what's your advice?
My advice is don't stalk in a pink car. That's the first thing. My first advice is she has a boyfriend, you have a wife. Just leave it where it is. I mean, once it's over with, it's over with. Just leave it where it stands. But my second advice would be if you're going to stalk, don't do it in a pink Mary Kay car. Those things are super
In a
noticeable.
pink car.
Those things are super noticeable. Right.
Yeah,
That is my
that's
advice.
amazing.
And my advice, he said, no divorce because there's a financial issue. When
Yeah.
you not saying you need an exit plan, and I don't want anybody to think I'm pro advocate of divorce. You should always have something away just in case anything happens. You never know.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
I'm pro divorce, but you should have something away where though if something does go wrong and you guys can't reconcile or fix it, you should be able to be stable to make moves on your own.
Agreed. Agreed. But yeah, the stalking, I don't know. That's messed up.
Well, you might understand a little bit. I mean, Marcus 30 years ago might have the same issue, 40 years.
Aw, that's so sad.
Oh, man. But thank you, Becca, for joining us. We reached our plateau. If anybody's looking for you, they can find you. Well, I have your handles on your screen. You might want to say it if you want to say it. Where they can find you at.
Yeah, well, sober living snippets on any podcast platform you're listening to is. I'm not super active on social media. I am there, but sober living snippets. If you're interested in hearing more about the sobriety path, and you already did the book for me, so I think we're good. It's been fun. Thanks for having me.
Well, again, everybody didn't catch it. Prostitute the Professor, a guide to radical transformation is on
Thanks.
Amazon, $8.99 for Kindle, $24.99 for hardcover, $14.99 for paperback. If you buy it on Kindle, you get 27 points. That's what it says right here. So
Thank
again,
you.
every guest that comes on that has a book, we do buy your books. I mean, you can't see this is another book, but we buy books and all. Hopefully, we can get it signed one day. If we ever meet, if I'm ever
Yeah.
in Western Canada,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
want to see these stories. So, thank you for coming.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's been awesome. It's been fun.
All right. So next week, I'll see you guys next week, same time, same channel. 7 o'clock. Like I said, I didn't look at the calendar, so I really don't know what's coming on next week. Just bear with me as normal, and you'll get the information when I get the information when I put it up on Instagram at Amsterdam_talk. See you next week,
Awesome.
7 p.m.